I just threw a truck at a dragon. I love my life.
Hey everyone, Mr. GVB here with another late review for you guys. In this one, I'm going to be discussing Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which is the sequel to the 2019 DC Comics film Shazam, which I personally really liked. I feel like I'm one of the few people out there who thoroughly enjoys that movie. I think it's one of the best films in the DCEU. I just think it had fantastic humor, a nice story about family, and just was an enjoyable movie. It had some issues, like some weak CGI in a third act that wasn't that great, but overall, I just thought it was a lot of fun and kind of a breath of fresh air in a sort of very, standard formulaic comic book era. Which leads me to Shazam! Fury of the Gods, a movie that I was looking forward to, again, more than I think most people were, but my hype definitely did die as time went on. The trailers weren't really all that exciting. It kind of looked like a bit more of a generic comic book movie with just tons of action and stuff, and sort of missing the element that made the first film so great. And I didn't think they were going to be able to capture lightning in a bottle twice completely, right? Because the first film, part of what made it so enjoyable for me was the character just getting his powers for the first time and screwing around with them and using them immaturely. And by the end of that film, he obviously learned how to use them in a good way, for good. So I didn't think that they were going to do the same thing again, because that would just not make sense from a character arc standpoint. But I don't know, to me, the trailers looked a little bit more generic, and the movie, unfortunately for me, did turn out that way. I think this is sort of a very standard comic book film, but I still had fun with it, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's bad. I think it's better than the reviews are. And I think it's unfortunate that the movie is doing as poorly as it is at the box office, because it's still fun and enjoyable at the end of the day. It just is a bit more generic and sort of standard comic booky feeling, which is a bit of a shame considering the first one to me did stand out, amongst other comic book films that have been released in recent memory. So the film is once again directed by David F. Sandberg, who did the 2019 Shazam film. He's a really cool guy in real life. I don't know him personally or anything, but he has a YouTube channel where he discusses, the behind the scenes of making movies and whatnot, and he has his own, lower budget short films on his channel. He has videos on, how you can make a homemade dolly and stuff like that. Just really cool things, and he's a very, open, vocal person online. He's actually responded to a few of my comments in the past, so really cool guy, and like him as a director, like what he's done in the past with the movies that he's made. And I think he did a good job here for the most part. Visually, this movie's definitely an improvement over the first film. The first film had very iffy CGI, especially when it came to any of the flying scenes. This movie definitely stepped the game up in that regard. I thought the effects were much better. There's still some things that don't look great here, but I never thought to myself, oh, that looks really bad. It's definitely a nicer looking movie than the first one. There's some really cool locations introduced here. For example, we get the kind of home world, or whatever you want to call it, for the villains, which is this ancient Greek-looking temple. That was pretty cool, and there's definitely some more mythology thrown into this movie. We get to see centaurs and these flying bat creatures. So there's definitely some cool, kind of creepy creature designs in here that I liked seeing as well. And the movie does still incorporate a little bit of that darker tone that the first one had. It's lighthearted, but it also has some kind of creepier moments with people in terror and stuff being attacked by these monsters. I wouldn't say it's as creepy as the first one. That whole office scene in the first movie, I remember thinking that was quite dark when I first initially saw it, and this doesn't ever reach that height, but it still included some darker moments in there which I liked. So as for the story, again, it is very basic. The entire family, all of the kids are superheroes at this point after the events of the end of the first movie. So they're kind of going around trying to save the day, trying to do their best job, but they're still always kind of leaving a mess somehow, and they're sort of being labeled as criminals, or not necessarily criminals, but just kind of people that are leaving a bit of a mess behind on the news and stuff. So they're not loved by the public. And then meanwhile, you have some new villains, the daughters of Atlas, who are showing up to Earth after being released from the realm that they were locked to. I think it was explained that it was because of the staff being broken in the first movie. So they're all out. They're here to conquer the world or whatever. Excuse me, and take back what's theirs. So that's your premise. Again, very basic. At the end of the day, the movie still does have those family elements that I enjoyed in the first movie, and that's what I would say is the best part of this film, is those family elements. There's still some really good character moments. I really liked Freddy in this movie. His character I thought was great here, played by Jack Dylan Grazer. I would actually say he was the highlight in this movie. Him and Rachel Zegler, who is a newcomer. She was in West Side Story last year, and I thought she was excellent in this movie. Just a really enjoyable character. Her powers are pretty cool. There's some really cool visuals with her there, and I just like the relationship between her and Freddie and their scenes together. I would have definitely liked to have seen more of her in this movie. She's in it quite a bit, but she was definitely one of my favorite parts. As for Shazam, the man himself, Zachary Levi is still really good in the role, still entertaining and everything, but we unfortunately do not get much of Asher Angel in this film as Billy, right? As the kid version. He's probably only got about 3 minutes of screen time, and that was disappointing because I definitely wanted to see more of him. I felt like one of my few issues with the first movie was I felt like there was a bit of a disconnect between the personality of Billy as a kid and as an adult. It felt like sort of two different people. In this movie, I felt like they did a better job with making them feel similar to each other. Unfortunately, we just don't get many scenes with Billy. There's one towards the end that I really, really liked, but these scenes are very few and far between in this movie. As for the action scenes, they are definitely better this time around. Like I said, the movie steps up the game a lot in terms of action. The credits use this one Elvis song, it's like a little less conversation, a little more action, please. That is exactly how I would summarize this movie. There is less story and much more action, and the action is enjoyable. It's definitely a step up from the first film's action, which was kind of subpar. And a big part of that is definitely just the improvement in the effect, but also just seeing all of the kids working together, and all of them, using their powers to take on Helen Mirren, Lucy Liu, and whatnot, and a dragon, and centaurs and all these other creatures. Humor-wise, the movie's pretty decent. I would say it's funny. It's funnier than a lot of MCU movies are. Definitely funnier than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Not as funny as the first Shazam though. The first one had excellent humor in my opinion. This doesn't quite reach those heights. But there's still some very funny moments. One of them with Helen Mirren where she's reading this letter that I thought was pretty hilarious and had me chuckling quite a bit. There's also some cameos in this movie which I wasn't a fan of. They kind of spoiled it, a very big spoiler actually, in one of the TV spots. And that part of the movie for me was definitely one of the weaker aspects. It just felt very forced, and I wasn't a fan of the way they included that part of the movie. So, I don't know. Another character who's back in this movie I recommend to mention real quick is, I don't even remember his name, but the wizard from the first movie. He's back in this film, and he's given a much bigger role, and I really liked him. There's this one scene with him that was absolutely hilarious, sort of earlier on in the movie, where he shows up in a character's dream. That caught me off guard, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. Again, the movie does, again, have its fun, entertaining moments for sure. It's just not as good as the first one, and definitely feels a little more generic. But I still liked it. I actually think it's semi-underrated. I think, it's probably, it has a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'd say it's deserving of a 65 or so. And from a box office standpoint, the movie is doing horrible. It's made, I think, about $100 million. I think its final worldwide gross is predicted to be about 140, which is terrible. That is the lowest a DCEU film has made, period. So that's really bad, really, really bad. I don't know why exactly. Some people say it's because of the DC universe resetting. I think that honestly has nothing to do with it, because I don't really know if that's a massively known thing to general audiences. Obviously to fans it is, but I think general audiences don't necessarily know that's a thing. I think part of it's just maybe marketing, maybe people just finding it to look a little bit generic. I mean, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania didn't do that well at the box office for a Marvel movie, so it could just be that we're kind of in a downward slope for comic book films right now, where they gotta look more appealing for audiences if people are gonna go check them out. They're no longer just the casual, let's go see this for fun as a little popcorn flick. Maybe they gotta step their game up, I don't know. We'll see with Guardians 3. If that movie does badly, then definitely comic book movies are in trouble, but I don't think it will. We'll see. Anyways, guys, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, I still had fun. I would give the movie a 7 out of 10 personally. I still think it's, fun and worth checking out if you're bored one day. But I wouldn't say it's a rush to the theaters kind of movie. Certainly not when you have films like John Wick Chapter 4 out. So thank you guys for watching this video as always. I'm Mr. DVB, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.